Now, on Friday, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak announced his maiden budget, a budget which has since been called a people-friendly budget and unity budget, among other things, with highlights that include lower personal income tax, higher EPF contributions, a fuel subsidy management system, and significant allocations for education, infrastructure, ICT, and even green technology. There seems to be something for everyone in Budget 2010. Still, no budget is without some surprises and disappointments for certain sectors of the economy, and those are bound to have some impact on the stock market in the week ahead. So to help us make sense of what to expect, it's my pleasure to welcome to the studio Maybank Investment Bank's Head of Research, Andrew Lee, and Chief Economist, Suhaimi Illias. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to see you.
Thank you for spending your Sunday night with us. Okay, to kick things off, Andrew, how do you think the market in general will react to the budget announcement?
I think the budget announcement was slightly positive. I think the markets will be pleasantly surprised. Essentially, I think the market wasn't really expecting the individual tax rate cuts, the individual reliefs the individual tax reliefs, the tax relief on broadband. And there were a number of sectors, particularly telcos and banking, which also benefited. And these are the large cap sectors, so you would expect the market to probably rise a little bit as a result of the positive incentives and so on these larger cap stocks.
So you expect it will start with a feel-good kind of vibe tomorrow?
Yes. I think there is, and I think the government is trying to inject a little bit of a feel-good factor, particularly into the household sector, putting a little bit more money into households for spending generally.
Okay. Now, moving on to Suhaimi, how were you surprised or disappointed by this year's budget?
I think perhaps the major surprise for me from this budget 2010 was the reduction in development spending. While I do acknowledge the government need to deal with the deficit, I was expecting the key measure to deal with the deficit was the cutbacks in operating expenditure, and the government is likely to maintain the momentum on development spending. So the biggest surprise to me is actually the unexpected 4.5% reduction in development spending. So that came in as a bit of a surprise for me.
Mm-hmm. And what about yourself, Andrew? Any surprises or disappointments?
I think the main disappointment for me would be the 5% real capital gains tax. I think that is, to me, is a little bit of a step backwards. I think most Asian economies don't have that already. But I think also I think in a way one can understand that because physical property transactions have taken off in quite a big way, and the central bank may just have or the government may just want to have put a little bit of a dampener onto the property market.
Mm-hmm. But in terms, we will talk about individual sectors after the break, but just very quickly, were there any sectors that sort of surprised you by being present in the budget for either of you gentlemen?
I think perhaps another surprise for me was the somewhat aggressive measure to promote Iskandar Malaysia, and I think this was in terms of the 15% personal income tax measures given to people who are employed in, I would say, qualifying areas within Iskandar Malaysia, for Malaysians as well as for foreigners. And I think this is a very interesting measure in the sense that it really tried to increase the value proposition of Iskandar Malaysia to especially international businesses and investors. So I thought that came in as a bit of a surprise in terms of some of the measures.
Mm-hmm. And what about green technology? That's something that a lot of people didn't actually expect would appear in this year's budget. Your thoughts on that?
To me, given the fact that the government has, in the medium term, the plan to phase out fuel and energy subsidies, personally, I'm not really that surprised specific incentives were actually given for green technology and renewable energy, particularly with regards to green technology. I think it's a right move to start incentivize this type of investment in the economy as we try to reduce our dependence on this subsidy mentality.
Okay, now we'll come back to individual stocks and sectors after this. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We do welcome your questions at stockwatch@tv3.com.my. We'll be back right after this.